Recently, I and my family were planning a vacation to Ghana and decided to go for an Airbnb apartment. After a decent amount of searches through the website, we found one. Seeing it was my first African trip with my family, I was a little apprehensive. And this meant I asked a bunch of questions from the host. One of those questions was the fact that she didn't have a profile photo. Hi guys, welcome to yet another episode of Customer Experience 101 with yours truly, Kolade Olajide. When you hear the term customer journey map, you may start to get a headache. Is this just another baseless technical jargon? No. Customer journey map should not be about designing something complex that leaves you frustrated or confused. It shouldn't leave you crippled. It should be simple and fit for the purpose intended. So let's break down this concept. There are two things that come to mind when you think of the customer journey map: the customer journey and the map. A customer journey is the complete path that your customer takes from getting to know about your business, your brand, your service, to using it and deciding whether or not they want to be a loyal customer. During that journey, your customer will interact with different elements of your business that will either positively or negatively impact what they think about your business. Those elements are what we call, wait for it, customer touchpoints. A customer journey map is how you recreate the path to understand touchpoints that are working, those that require improvement, and with that information, you can design what the ideal state should be. A customer journey map will always have two sides to that coin. Side one, what currently exists, and some people call it the as-is state. Side two, what your ideal state should be. Some people call it what should be state. Today, we explore the concept of customer journey through a personal story, and then we will use that story to create a practical session by mapping one. Story time! Recently, I and my family were planning a vacation to Ghana and decided to go for an Airbnb apartment. After a decent amount of searches through the website, we found one. The home was great and it had amazing reviews. Seeing it was my first African trip with my family, I was a little apprehensive. And this meant I asked a bunch of questions from the host. One of those questions was the fact that she didn't have a profile photo. She was patient and I give her thumbs up for that. She answered every question, provided all the necessary details from getting a cab at the airport to accessing the estate where the apartment is located. And of course, when I got to the apartment, the key was waiting for me. Access was easy. The home was looking as great as it was advertised. The Wi-Fi was fast. The furniture was on point. There was a person there to run simple errands. Our host stayed in touch throughout the trip, recommending places to visit, what to do and not what to do. She even surprised us at the end of our trip by giving us a free ride to the airport. Talk about a fantastic experience. The customer journey began from finding the apartment on the Airbnb space to using the apartment, and it ended with the free trip to the airport. So do you understand what a customer journey is about now? So it's time for us to go to a practical session where you'd assume that I'm the host and I intend to design one simple customer journey map. The focus here, guys, is simple. So let's join me on my design screen. Okay, hi guys. Thank you for joining in on the live practical session. So let's dive in. So we've been talking about the customer journey map, and you recall the example I gave of my Ghanaian family trip experience. Now, the name of the host in question, and we are just making this up, is Abigail. So this is the customer journey map for Abigail's short rental apartment. Sorry guys, I left out the apartment. And this is what currently happens. The customer journey map, remember, has what is and what should be. What is your current reality based on the tactics you've put in place, based on what your customers are feeling, based on the experiences that your customers have across the touch points that make up the journey to your apartment. So what you can see here is broken into a number of sections, as you can see. There is the different stages here that make up that journey or pathway. There is the awareness stage, which in this case is getting to find out about the property on Airbnb. There is the decision stage, which is essentially the host's page. There is the use, and this is the crux of everything, right? Where the accommodation sits pretty. And then there is post-usage, which in this case we'll call after-sales support. Now, we have what is called your current tactic. So how do you interact with your customers across each of these touch points? And when I say touch points, remember that it is whatever part of your business that allows the customer to form an impression of that business. The touch point for the awareness stage here is your Airbnb page. The touch point for the decision making is the page of the host. The touch point for use is the actual accommodation or your apartment. And then the touch point for post usage is whatever you do for after sales support. Now let's assume that the tactics that you've created is one, putting your property on Airbnb. Another tactic is including every information that the person would need to know about your apartment. At the level of the decision stage, where the customer is thinking, do I or do I not? You will include things like your WhatsApp number. That's what currently happens, right? On the page. And then ensuring you are available round the clock to answer queries. Of course, you need to go to bed. So when I say round the clock, I leave that to your discretion. And then accommodation. The tactics include ensuring that they have free Wi-Fi. People want to game, people want to watch Netflix, they want to watch Prime, they want to go on YouTube. Then there is the entertainment system like your TV, your speaker, all those things are currently in place by you. Then of course people need to eat, right? So the cooking stove, the pots, the pans, the plates, the cups, things along those lines. When people come to an Airbnb, they would like the flexibility of cooking their meals. So you've done well by putting these things there. And then there is the furniture. And of course, the bed things, the sofa, where people sleep at night. And then post-use, your current tactic is to offer a free ride to the airport. And of course, collect customer satisfaction feedback so you can improve on their experience. Now, when you think of your customer journey, it's also important for you to find out if your customers have any pain points. And a pain point is essentially what your customer doesn't like about that particular stage in the customer journey. So in this case, your pain point here is no pain points at the Airbnb. So your property is there, all information is required, and the customers are happy with that. Now, I need to point this out before we continue. For you to get your customer pain points, it is good here that you have customer satisfaction feedback, right? So it is when you look through the feedback that you can begin, and hopefully you've structured your survey to capture that customer journey. And we will talk about this in another session. Once you have that feedback, you analyze that feedback, then you are able to understand what your customer pain points are across each of the journey. Now, For the decision stage, where information about the host is, where the person gets to see you, the profile picture, chat you up and things along those lines. The pain point of the customer, and in this case, that was my pain point, there was no profile photo. I didn't know who I was speaking to. Eventually, yes, she explained why, and it made some sense. And eventually, I decided to use the service, right? But this is the pain point of the customer. In terms of accommodation, everything was there. However, customers want more, right? It's okay to be a liver twist. A jacuzzi would be nice. And then for post-use, none. Customer was absolutely happy. So the next part of your journey map as it is would be, what is your customer feeling? And you can also sense that pulse from whether you have high satisfaction ratings and what's not. At the awareness stage, your customer is happy. Well done. At the decision stage, your customer is a little unsure, but still happy because I moved on, right? And at the accommodation stage, the customer is happy. At the post-use stage, the customer is also happy. So now we know what the customer journey is as it stands. The next thing you need to do as a business is to think of what the ideal state would be. How do you get your customer to the point where they are in love with your service? And we can say the customer is pretty in love with the service here, right? But things can always be better. So let's hop into what should be. The what should be part of the customer journey map. Right. Here, everything is replicated. The stages from awareness, decision, use, and post-use. Now you are asking yourself, what should be your additional tactic? At the stage of awareness, you are pretty fine. You can't think of any additional thing to do. So you leave it as none. At the decision stage, it's pretty obvious, right? You need to get yourself a professional photo for your profile. At the accommodation stage, you need to get yourself a jacuzzi if you can afford it. And then at the post-use stage, yes, the customer is happy, but you want to do more. And there's nothing wrong in exceeding customer service. That should be the goal. There's competition, right? So you give your customer a surprise parting gift. Could be a mug with your logo, could be a Bentley. Just kidding. And yes, so at the end of the day, your customer pain point now the customer pain point we are seeing here is essentially what the customer pain point was there. So I deliberately highlighted this just so that you know what we are trying to address with your additional tactic. And where you would want your customer to be at the end of the day across each of these journeys should be awareness, happy. Decision, happy. Use, happy. Post-use, happy. And then your customer would comfortably sit at a place of satisfaction, a place of retention, and a place where they would go out there and advocate your brand, essentially tell your friends and family about how amazing your apartment is in Ghana. I believe you now know how to create a simple customer journey map. You don't have to use a PowerPoint. A Microsoft Word is fine. Microsoft Excel is fine. Or you can even write it on a piece of paper. The principle remains the same. I am positive that you have learned something from this episode. Now it's time for you to apply what you've learned. Did you enjoy this episode? Do you have something that would benefit your business? Please support this podcast by simply subscribing to this channel and hitting the like button. If you've got some questions or you have any feedback, or simply you are inclined to say hi, leave a comment and I promise to get back to you. Thank you for watching this episode of Customer Experience 101. See you again.